Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Anthony Hudson. I'm the chair of the panel, and welcome to the meeting of the Georges River Local Planning Panel for today. Can I just ask, other than the panel members, everybody should have their microphone on mute and their camera should be off. When it's your turn to speak, if you're a speaker, your microphone obviously will come on and you will also put your camera on, but otherwise we keep them off. The panel today is made up of Sue Francis, expert panel member, Nicholas Skelton, expert panel member, Cameron Jones being community representative. Now, just the agenda, the published agenda might have mentioned that Sue Francis was the chair. She would normally be the chair, but due to some technical internet difficulties, she is here on the phone and she can hear everything, but she can't there's no visual, so the panel decided that I would just do the chairing for continuity. We've been appointed by the Minister of Planning to determine specific development applications, of which we have 4 today. Acknowledgement of Country. The panel acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which this meeting is being broadcast as part of, or as that of, the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation. Also, we are required to tell everybody that the under the provisions of the EPNA Act, Environmental Planning Assessment Act, this is being live streamed and will be available on the council's website. Also, there are some revised meeting protocols due to COVID, and interested parties wishing to make their representations to the panel were requested to register. We have received 6 registrations, and they are for matters 3 Cross Street. There's 3 registered speakers: Irene Gallagher, Alison Fury, Mark Raimundo. For 8 Linden Crescent, we have 2 speakers: Sam Hassan and Louis Samad. And at 36 Asquith Street, we have Anders Idlestrom. We have, as I mentioned, we have 4 development applications before us today. We have reports from council officers: 3 Cross Street, Kyle Bay, I've just mentioned the addresses, 61 Queens Road, Hurstville, 8. Okay, back.
Okay, we're back. Thank you, Anthony.
So much for technical difficulties for the other chair. This chair also hadn't plugged in his computer, but he has now. My apologies. So, as I mentioned, we have the 4 development applications, and I've given the addresses. Can I turn quickly to disclosure of pecuniary interests? All panel members have filled out their forms, and there are no pecuniary interests except for Cameron Jones, who is declared a conflict of interest for the last item. As a result, he has not been involved in any discussions we've had just prior to the meeting about this matter. He won't be. When we get to that matter, his camera will be turned off and he won't be participating, and obviously his sound. And then when we do the private session, he won't be involved in that matter also. Now, for people who are registered to speak, you will have 3 minutes, and there'll be you'll hear an alarm at the end of the 3 minutes, and I'll just ask you to wind up after that. Also, I've mentioned to keep your microphones off. We're asked to remind speakers that any defamatory or discriminatory or offensive language should not be used, and if you do, you may expose yourself to a liability for which the council and the panel take no responsibility. Once we've heard all the oral submissions from a particular application, we'll then just move on to the next one, and then after that we'll have a private session to consider them, and the terminations should be available on the council's website, usually within 24 hours of today or shortly thereafter. I'll now go to the first matter, and I'm just going back to the speakers on my list. So number 3 Cross Street, Kyle Bay, Irene Gallagher. Are you there, Ms. Gallagher? Hello, thank you. We can see you. And if you start the timer now, that'd be great.
Wonderful. Thank you to the panel for acknowledging our submission and accommodating today's presentation. In opening, my partner Tony, myself and our children have been living in the LGA for over 25 years, mostly at 1 Cross Street, Kyle Bay. And during this time, we've had healthy and respective relationships with our neighbours and have been immersed within the local community. We're a family who have strong values of honesty and integrity. We believe we've been accommodating and amicable in relation to our dealings with the owner-builder of 3 Cross Street at Kyle Bay, who is our direct neighbour on our western side. The initial relationship began between my partner Tony and the owner-builder David and seemed to be productive until we began questioning the building and further requesting repairs to be undertaken, namely a rebuild to our boundary fence and side building due to the collapse of our boundary fence as a consequence of the works at number 3. I note that a boundary fence was erected under such much duress, yet without adequate consultation with ourselves. We were not provided with any scope, including measurements, materials, or the finish. And we now view a 1.9 metre fence in our backyard, and our side fence is at a 2.3 metre, well beyond the regulations. We're still awaiting for the fence to be rendered and painted, so to bring it back to its original fencing, so that we can install a pool fence and a side gate, enabling compliance and security. It was at this point that we experienced a very different side to the owner and came to the realisation, post our research, that our property building and ourselves and our family had and continued to be significantly impacted in the process of the works to date. Our submission articulates our concerns, in brief, the illegal works to date, including excavation, and works beyond the scope of council approval, the loss of our privacy through such illegal works. The excavation indicates that the build will stretch back some over 8 metres at the back of number 3, encroaching on our backyard privacy, which we enjoy all year round due to the northerly aspect of our yard and in our fresco lifestyle. The lack of regard of council's regulations and blatant disregard of the approved plans to accommodate the owner's wants and desires is a significant concern for us in the future build. How can we as lay people have protection over this? The illegal excavation has shifted our property, and we now have significant internal cracks to most of our rooms on the boundary side of our property, and this has been movement within our flooring. We have also our externals have been affected as well. Whilst our submission outlines our concerns, of significance is the impact to both my and Tony's mental health and well-being in our dealings with the owner. To be yelled at and screamed at, prompting unfavourable responses has left us, quite frankly, scared. And we have avoided any communication with the owner for fear of any retribution. The snide comments of the owner and his relative, who undertook the dilapidation report and has entered our property on numerous occasions, have remained insensitive. However, demonstrates the character that we're dealing with and will now have to live next door to. We do call on this panel and on the council to seriously consider their decision making and provide some sort of assurance to ourselves and our neighbours that council upholds their compliance firmly with the owner at number 3 Cross Street. And without your support, we will be forced to look at alternatives and potentially look at legal action. I do thank the panel for their consideration and for listening to me today, and hoping that some fruitful decisions will be made that certainly support council regulations, support the community, and very much the feel of the wonderful community that we've grown to love at 1 Cross Street, Kyle Bay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the panel?
No questions.
Yeah. Sir?
No, thank you.
The next speaker is Alison Fury. I've got that wrong, I apologise. Are you there, Alison?
I
yes.
am.
Thank you.
Hello. Again, thank you very much to the panel for listening to me today. And I have experienced chatting to the panel before, and I was pleased with the outcome at that time, but it happened to be 2 modifications ago, and many things have been modified since. One of my prime concerns, and we will immediately remove the fact that we have not been notified nearly enough about what is going on next door, and that is either in email or post. One of our prime concerns is the fact that the builder completely disregarded the last ruling of the panel, which was to adjust his original DA, which certainly had different specifications to what was done, in order to include a dilapidation report, which was my sole wish. I have included this in my submission, totally ignored, began. Other things we have inquired about, forgotten. He has a disdain for any rulings. I particularly am concerned also about the hastily erected wall that was put into my backyard where he needed it. It's a retaining wall and looks very poorly made. He again insisted that it would be done beautifully and then said he'd like another 2.5 metres on top of it. At the front of our house, and our house is the last one in the street before the cross street corner, he wishes to put another gigantic wall, which thankfully the council has looked at and said this is a no-go, but he was unhappy about that. And because of his track record, I'm under the impression that he will do what he wishes to do. The building, western frontage, which is really the major frontage of the building, has been moved so far forward using side frontage measurements and rulings when really it is the major frontage of the building. It will be so obvious and prominent in the streetscape that it will be a major eyesore. It keeps creeping forward. Privacy issues, acoustic issues, issues with green space are just the beginning. I feel that the council, surely, as the council that has been elected to a ratepayer and a family of ratepayers in this area for decades, could perhaps possibly see what can be done about a developer who is not only rude, hard to contact, and blatantly dishonest, but also look into changing the certifier who appears to just tick anything. He has not been seen on site, yet the modifications keep coming and the building keeps going.
That's 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I am so grateful to the panel to listening.
Is there anything else you want to say?
Just to thank you, and I hope that the result is a good one for the neighbourhood.
Could you just confirm your address for me, the exact address?
52 Baroni.
You're 52, yeah, the one next to
the
yeah.
neighbour.
I thought so, thank you, okay. Any questions? No, okay, thank you very much. So the next speaker is Mark Ramunda.
Good afternoon all. Thank you, panel. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you to council and panel for your time, as well as respectfully to neighbours. I understand, I appreciate your input. In relation to the proposal, look, I understand there is a history of unauthorised works to which council is undertaking further investigation, which is obviously a separate matter.
Sorry, Mark, just before we go any further, are you the owner or the?
Oh no, apologies. I'm actually the town planner. I'm not the owner.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Keep going.
So we're familiarised with the contents of the report, raising no real material concerns. However, we respectfully have a bit of a difference of opinion in relation to the retaining wall. Mm-hmm. The logic, I guess, and rationale, I guess, in relation to this design, and was to pretty much kind of square off that rear terrace. And in comparison to the original approval, in relation to this, we thought about, well, what's a good way to kind of, in kind words, keep the peace between the neighbouring properties at number 52 Baroni Street, given that They do have a front balcony, which my understanding is sometimes used. I understand that they do have principal private open space in the rear yard. But when we looked at this, we thought about a trade-off in relation to incorporating a privacy screen along northern elevation, which limits sight lines or impacts. But also in relation to that, we thought about ways to increase, spatial separation by way of increased landscaping. So if you look at, from a visual point of view, we did go to the effort of engaging a landscape designer. So even a concern which was raised in relation to visual impact. I mean, there are, 1.5 metre bottle brushes along the Baroni Street frontage. Then you've got 2 layers of lily pads which can grow 3 metres. You've got a banksia which can grow 10 metres. That's all, within just under 3 metres within the front setback on that secondary frontage. Then you have a 2.2 metre high fence. And then on the retaining walls, and I do apologise, there was maybe on the landscape plan, I think that it might have referenced to a certain plant, but it wasn't in the schedule. But it's actually, it makes reference to Thorium tenax, and I do apologise. It's called a yellow wave, and that has a height of 1.5 metres, as well as we have dusky bells. So we've tried to kind of result in an aesthetically pleasing and reasonable design solution with embellished landscaping. So that's what we've tried to do, as well as in relation to acoustic impacts. We got rid of the stairs, and in a nutshell, we've tried to kind of keep the peace between the neighbours by finding that middle ground. Collectively, we've gone through the effort of providing aerials, montages. I'm sorry, is that 3 minutes?
Correct.
Okay, sorry, I'll just wrap it up. So look, that's what in a nutshell we've tried to do. Any further questions? I'm here for the panel.
Yeah, okay, so does anyone want to ask a question? I've got, wants to go first?
I'm happy to go first.
Thanks, Cameron.
Yes, Cameron.
I'm just noting on the plans in the area that you're talking about, which I believe is sort of the northwestern corner of the site, is that correct?
Yes, yep.
I've noticed you've got the area west of the pool is noted as a landscaped area on plan. But if you go to the sections, and it's also noted as being backfilled to future details.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to the sections, and particularly section BB, it's clearly shown as about a 600 deep slab.
Okay, can you tell me which page you're looking at? Just give me a second. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through.
So I'm on drawing number sheet 11 of 33, which is section BB. Well,
yep.
While you're scrolling through that, I suppose, is there any reason that in that corner that it can't be more of a natural, can't follow more of the natural ground levels down there?
In that corner, well, I guess the logic is, look, there is no real material rationale. However, what we've tried to do is try to offset it. And it's probably not shown that clearly in relation to the original plans on the elevations, but if I was going to, for example, stand on Baroni Street as how it is approved, I'd be looking at, yes, some landscaping embellishment. I'd be looking at a wall. I'd be looking at something which is a bit, recessed a bit, but it's going to come up as something which is generally untreated. And what we've tried to do is, on the balance here, it's how should I say in kind words, give or take, give and take, by squaring it off, right? But also providing that additional landscaping terrace to kind of soften that wall. Because
currently it's not landscape, Mark, it's shown as a slab.
Yeah. So is that an error? So to go back a step, sorry to interrupt, Cameron, that must be an error, because when you look at the floor plan for the garage and so forth, and the plan above it, clearly there's no slab there. So that's an error, is it not, in that section?
Yeah, there might be an inconsistency. Look, I do apologise that the draft is not with me today, unfortunately, due to medical appointment.
Just out of interest, when was the last time you went to the site?
Oh,
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
yeah, no, that's good. I went out on site on Monday, I think. So before I sent this to the representations, those, I guess, on page number 2 where the little snippets are. Yeah, that's when I went out on site.
And we saw some aerial photographs before which showed that there was a suggestion that the formwork for the next slab had been placed or put in place. Is that correct?
I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. I observed the site through the fence.
Right.
But
you didn't walk around the site and see?
No, I could only go through respectfully just around the site and whatnot. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Cameron, I interrupted there. But yeah.
No, that's fine, Anthony. I think that's my question for the moment.
Thank you, Cameron.
So you don't, and sorry, Nick, got a question?
Well, just adding to that, on the deep soil planting areas, it's shown as a deep soil planting, that slab.
Mm-hmm.
That's it for the moment.
Okay.
So we should ignore the slab and assume it's deep soil, shouldn't we?
Yes.
And that would be okay. Okay, Sue, do you have any questions?
Well, I must admit, I'm a bit confused between what's being modified and what's approved, but I'm looking at that area of lawn at RL 27.95, which is nearly 4 metres above the street. And I'm a bit confused as to why that's appropriate.
In other words, the height of the wall there.
Yeah, let alone that it's on top of the slab.
Yeah. So, look, I understand that there is an issue of non-compliance, but as I said respectfully, we've tried to do a trade-off in relation to, yes, it is elevated and higher, but what we've tried to do is at least embellish that corner. But
no, sorry, I'm not talking about non-compliance. This is what you're seeking approval for.
Yeah.
So I think what we're saying is, why do you need so much masonry there, and why can't it be more green? I mean, in a nutshell.
And why can't it be lower?
Yeah, well, less wall and more with the the flow of the land.
Well,
there's nothing stopping physically to do that, obviously.
No, there isn't. But I guess where I was coming from, it came back down to impacts. I mean, for me personally, what is the actual impact of this? And what I kind of read or trying to interpret from the report was, is there a privacy impact? Which, in my opinion, I don't believe there was a material privacy impact because of how we've actually designed it in a certain way in relation to acoustics as well. I can understand maybe a difference of opinion in relation to visual impacts on how it's perceived or read from the streetscape. But what we've tried to do in good faith is demonstrate that we've got substantial landscaping to kind of, how should I say, in kind of offset that.
All right, I understand. Any other questions?
I'm at a loss to understand, or I must admit that I'm at a loss to understand the difference between what you're seeking in your plans as a modification to rectify and remedy the works you've already done, as opposed to the works that you've done that you will be removing.
Yeah, so to answer your question, the way that I would take it is pretty much follow what we've gone through the modification. So I had to also ask the owner, when I did go out and say, look, just for the purpose of the panel, what is it exactly going on? And that's why in the representation of the snippets, I had snippets in there to actually demonstrate how much formwork is going up in relation to, the amount of, the plan of the boxes. I think it's on page 2, indicated on red. And I was just trying to kind of give an indication, because I understand where it comes, and that's exactly the same question I did raise with the applicant, with the owner. And I said, look, if the panel go outside, which they will, take a look and whatnot. Yes, they're seeking to understand what's being reverted back to, what are you actually applying for? Are the extent of works not what you're seeking? So from my discussions with the owner in relation to what is actually physically there and whatnot, so the corner, it's all there until that corner. So what is done is, what was technically proposed, it goes up to that corner, on that northwest corner.
So Mark, has the owner confirmed to you that he's going to remove all the formwork that's there on site, and he's going to backfill all that area shown red hatched?
That's my understanding at this point in time. So look, in good faith, when I went out on site, I even said, look, and I know that the owner Alison next door made mention of retaining wall. I said, I went out on site. I said, look, get rid of it. I don't want that retaining wall. That I want, what was technically approved by the panel, so you can have some good quality landscaping. I think lily pilly is along that rear northern elevation, rear northern boundary. So my understanding is that things will be rectified to be consistent with what we're applying for.
Actually, I do, through you, Chair, I do have one question. It was raised by both residents, and
Yes.
that was in relation to the dilapidation report.
Okay.
And that was that it wasn't an independent report because it was done by a relative. Do you know who did the dilapidation report?
I'd love to answer your question, but unfortunately, I don't know.
Unfortunately, I'll ask the councillor that question.
Yeah, that's unfortunately something you'll have to look up on the file. Unfortunately, I can't answer that question. Apologies.
Okay.
Okay, so any other questions from the panel? Nick, Cameron, no, and Sue, you're okay?
Look,
I'm okay. Yeah, sort of. No
Sorry?
more questions. I'm not okay, but
No, I mean okay in the sense you don't have any more questions.
one of the residents, the resident next door, talked about the front setback changing from what was approved. Can you tell us if that's correct or not?
Is that making
What
a reference?
built is not consistent with what was approved, is what she said.
Yeah, if that's in question in relation to Baronian Street, I'm not aware of that.
Okay, that's all.
Yeah, I'd like to elaborate, but I'm not aware of that. So when I went on site, it looks like it, in relation to the alignment, it looks like it appears to match with what was approved. I mean, I know. I guess in good faith, it's hard to tell exactly because there's scaffolding and whatnot. But from my observations and through my site inspection, I couldn't perceive that. I didn't go out there with the measuring tape, but I couldn't actually tell that were the case, or indication to me that hasn't been constructed inconsistent with the plans in relation to location and city.
sorry, I do need to ask a question. Did you put the section modification? Were you the planner who put the modification in?
No. To answer your question, I was the second planner engaged. So respectfully, the first planning firm engaged was Planning Ingenuity for certain reasons, maybe lack of service or whatnot. I did not approach the owner. He contacted me one day before Christmas and asked me, look, can you assist?
Okay, because the application before us actually says that the modification involves an extension of the balcony facing Cross Street and a reduction of the approved setback from 5.5 to 5 meters.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yes. So there was. If the question is that it was relating to a minor variation which is supported, I think it's for the balcony along Cross Street.
Yeah, Sue. Sorry, it's Kim Johnston.
Yep.
There is a non-compliance there. The current DCP is 5.5. That's what the approved. It was approved at, and this application is seeking a variation to that to 5 metres for a first floor balcony.
Yes, that's what I understood, which is why I was a bit confused when you didn't know anything about it. That's all.
Oh, okay.
Because it was part of the application. That's why I wanted to understand whether he submitted the modification. That's all. Okay.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you. No further
Any other questions? All good. Okay. Thank you, Mark. That's the end of number 3 Cross Street. We can now move on to the next one we have speakers for, which is 8 Linden Preston. And the first speaker is Sam Hassan.
Yeah, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I suppose first and foremost, I'd like to thank all involved for the opportunity to address the committee in relation to 8 Linden Crescent, Lugano. And just so you're aware, Louis, somebody else, and myself are using the same computer, so we're writing together. So firstly,
sorry. So the next speaker, Louis, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's correct. That's
okay.
correct.
And can you tell us where you fit in the picture?
Yeah, so Louis, I'm one of Louis' mates and support person.
Right, and are you your objectors?
Yes.
And could you just tell us your addresses?
Number 8 Linden Crescent, Lugano.
8 Linden, good.
And for myself, it's 7 Barton Street, Arncliffe.
See, okay.
Yep.
Okay, off you go.
Okay, so firstly, I'd like to state that Louis and his family have encountered many challenges in the process and have always maintained a professional approach that took into account all the requirements of councils. So first and foremost, here I'd like to bring to your attention the timeline of the application and what has transpired, because I think that's important for you to, I suppose, build a picture of what's occurred. Louis lodged an application back in August 2021, so I repeat, August 2021. I've got a PAN number here of 134010. Upon initial assessment, Louis received some correspondence from council on the 6th of September of 21, asking for additional information as per the planning guidelines that were in force at the time. These included or in relation to stormwater management and driveway profile. We obliged and provided the requested information in a timely manner. This to me indicates that the application had been reviewed at the time at that particular time of when the request was made. With the changes that were made, we submitted. Council then gave us a new PAN number of 153176 on the 6th of October 2021. Please note this is prior to any changes to the council's local planning guidelines, because I think they came in later on that in October. Letters were sent to neighbours for comment in November 2021, and as far as we're aware, nil issues were raised by any of the neighbours. I'm sure that neighbours would not have been given or been consulted to incorrect plans or any submissions that were unacceptable by council standards. Again, this indicates to me that the application was reviewed under the current local planning guidelines that were in force. In December 2021, council inspectors scheduled inspections at the residence at 8 Linden, but to our shock, they rescheduled on a number of occasions. On one occasion, no notice was given, and another occasion, 21 minutes notice was given. And on both these occasions, Louis needed to take time off work to be present for these inspections, but to no avail. Again, this indicates to me that the application was reviewed under period correct local planning guidelines. Louis had many conversations with council between October 2021 and February of 2022, or 17th of February 2022 to be exact. At no point did council mention any new development guidelines, nor did they mention any planning changes to us or the architect that's involved in the plan. As you can imagine, we're in total shock and disbelief when the council advised us on the 18th of February of 2022 that new changes have come into force back in late October of 2021, and we would need to redraw our plans. This would be over 6 months from our initial application and over 4 months from our revised plan in early October. More importantly, both PA. Sorry, someone said something there?
Yeah, that's 3 minutes, but do you want to keep going?
I would like to
hear what you've got to say about it.
Yeah, I would like to reiterate the application prior to the changes were
just before you go any further, you're actually doing a submission for Louis too, is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
So in effect it's 6 minutes, so keep going.
Oh, beautiful, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So more importantly, both PAN numbers were issued prior to any alleged changes coming into force in late October. I would like to reiterate that the application was lodged prior to the changes that were made to the local planning guidelines in late October. Even then, even the revised PAN was issued prior to any alleged change to the local guidelines as well, local planning guidelines. Sorry, this delay in the application and the fact that we would be required to outlay more financially to redraw plans, and the fact that builders are continuously revising costs has and will continue to cause undue stress on Louis and his family. The anxiety can't be good, especially in these difficult times. So what I'm trying to say, it can be perceived that the lodgement of our application occurred prior to the changes coming in, and the fact that from August to February there has not been any mention of changes, I hereby conclude that the application should be assessed under the local planning guidelines that were in force at the time of the application, and should not be affected by any changes that came in after the lodgement of that application. Now, as per the New South Wales Government Department of Plan and Environment Guide, Stage 2, lodgement and initial administration by council, second paragraph, clearly stipulates that the lodgement of application is the formal start of any DA process, which to me clearly indicates that the application should be assessed under the planning guidelines that were in force when the lodgement was made, and they were in force at that time. From my perspective and Lou's perspective, I just wanted to thank you for your time, and look, kindly ask that the application is finalised in a timely manner for the sake of Louis and his family, but also under the guidelines that were in place when the lodgement took place, not post lodgement. So thank you very much, and that's what we're asking for. Kindly asking for.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Perhaps more of a clarification, so I understand what you're saying. You're suggesting that your lodgement on the portal is what you consider to be lodgement of the development application.
Sorry, so sorry, what was that? I missed that question, sorry.
Are you suggesting that your initial lodgement of the application on the planning portal on the 18th of August should be the date that is considered to be the formal lodgement of the development application?
That's correct, and also supplementary to that, there was also modifications that were made, and another submission was an updated submission was made with the changes that council requested on the 6th of October of 2021 as well.
And is it? I think is your point there that the LEP came in 2 days later or shortly after?
Well, so shortly after, and which now requires, I suppose, a setback from 900 millimetres to 1500 millimetres. So it's a substantial setback change, which requires the redrawing of all the plans for the development.
Yeah, okay, that's all right. Sorry, Sue, I interrupted. Any more?
No. That's just, I'm just trying to get to the bottom of.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
The date of lodgement. According to council, was accepted by council on the 25th of October.
Yes. So Mr. Hassan, can we go through those dates? You're saying you lodged it on the portal on the 18th of August, and then there was, and then did the council ask you something after that?
Yeah, so after that, there was the council reviewed the application and came back and asked for changes to the stormwater management.
What date was that? You know the date of that?
The council replied to us on the 6th of September 2021.
Yeah, so that's council 16, and then you're saying you responded to that on 6 October.
No, we responded earlier than the 6th of October. We were given a revised PAN number on the 6th of October.
Hang on, revised PAN.
And Chair, this is on page 227 and 228 of the report. So these dates are consistent with the officer's report.
Yeah, okay. All right, so there's an issue there about that. So do you I assume you don't have any, sorry, I'm talking to Mr. Hassan, I beg your pardon. You don't have any legal advice or anything at the moment about this?
No.
So but your simple submission is it should be assessed under the old LEP, not the new one.
Correct.
And if you do that, okay. Well, we have a problem obviously because it's been assessed under the new one. So at the moment we can't take it much further unless you've got anything else further to say. I don't know if we've got any questions about the merits of it in particular.
I suppose from a merit point of view, I mean, there are solutions that I think council made aware to you that if you didn't want to comply with what council considered to be the appropriate controls, i.e. the new ones, that you have the opportunity to submit a variation to the development standard, which in the absence of, if the panel has to accept that the application was submitted on the 25th of October, it is probably obliged to consider, and it cannot make any decision other than you didn't put in the 4.6. So why didn't you put in a 4.6 variation?
So that's Louis. I should refer to Louis just to answer that question.
Sorry, the date you're referring to, the 25th, is the actual invoice that was sent to us to be paid for the DA. That's the date we got received it. That's the day we paid it. So we didn't receive any DA prior to that, any payments to that date.
No, I think
that's correct.
And no, that's not the question. I think the question is, once you were made aware of this problem, why is it you said we don't agree with it, therefore we're not going to respond to it?
No,
or because you could have responded to it and put a 4.6 variation in because of the issue about the landscaped area. And what's your response to that?
The landscape, we're happy to negotiate. We've actually tried to call council with Eric to negotiate for that, but we've had no response. Eric said,
no, I think you need to understand it's not about negotiations. It is a statutory requirement that if you do not comply with a development standard, the only mechanism to vary that development standard is through a formal 4.6 variation. That option was available to you and you didn't take it up, which puts the panel in a very difficult position, or rather really only one position that it can take. Because a development application, as far as I understand, is only deemed to be lodged once the payment is received.
Look, I understand what you're saying, and there may have been oversight in relation to that variation standard, but what Louis was trying to say in regards, because I think the chairman asked about the landscaping, what Louis was trying to say is he was actually in communication with Eric, one of the officers there, in relation to the actual landscaping plans. It wasn't in relation to the variation standard.
Yeah.
Yes, but unless you fully complied with the standard, any negotiations for anything less still required 4.6.
So the question I have then, sorry, and please tell me if I'm saying anything out of line. The question I have is when you put in an application, as per, like I said, the New South Wales Planning website, it says that's the first formal step of lodgement of a DA. Now, whether that be August or the revised PAN number that we're given on the 6th of October, to my understanding, that is a lodgement, and I should be.
No, and unfortunately that's where the problem is, and I think council did try to explain that to you, and it is unfortunately something we're all having to grapple with. It's not just you, we all have to deal with this particular portal, but applications are only deemed to have been lodged once they're accepted by council and the fee has been invoiced.
So the other question I have, and again, I don't know if I'm in the right to ask questions, but for 6 months there was constant communication with council and Eric in particular, and there was no mention of any changes to any planning guidelines until February the 18th.
Well, the information we have in our report says that it was explicitly mentioned to you during the non-acceptance of your applications. In fact, on the 6th of September, within council's letter, returning the application. So in the letter from council on the 6th of September, when it returned the application to you, it informed you of the adoption of the LEP and the imminent change, and that it would be considered under the new provision.
And that's and the important thing is that's before you paid the fee when it's deemed to be lodged properly.
Yeah. And again, there was to me, from what I've been told, there was no mention of any setbacks or anything like that, any increased setbacks in that time on the 6th of September.
So that may well be the case, but what council was highlighting to you was that we're going to be a change of controls, and that it would be very important that you check those change of controls before you submitted your application. The council would not have assessed the application at that point because it hadn't even been submitted. It was just highlighting to you that there was going to be a change and putting you on notice to check. I think this is the difficulty we're in. So,
and look, unfortunately, that's the way it's been assessed. It's a matter for the panel now to listen to what you've said, but there's obviously a problem here with this.
And appreciate that and appreciate your time this afternoon.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
Just we're willing to meet the count for landscaping.
Yeah.
Just we're willing to, yeah, for the landscaping, we have no hesitation in that. It's just the setback. We just find we can't.
Yes, I understand what you said. That's fine.
Thank you.
All right. I don't think we can take it any further now. So that would be thank you for your submissions. We'll move on to the next matter.
Thank you.
And that is 36 Asquith Street, Oatley, Anders Idlestrom.
Chairman, I'll have to.
Yes, sorry, beg your pardon. Before we go any further, Cameron Jones will now leave us. Thank you. Cameron, confirm council. Cameron's gone. Yes.
Good afternoon, panel. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go.
All right. I'm obviously representing the applicant. And we generally concur with the panel's decision. There are a couple of matters that I would like to discuss and raise, if possible, in reference to the proposed design changes, condition 9, the draft conditions.
Can I, just before you go any further, this may help you. We had your submission about the privacy screens.
Yes.
We understand that your concern would be that they're probably not necessary.
Correct.
And we understand that, and we've got your diagram. So tell us. Happy for you to tell us, but I assume you're going to say something along the lines of, why do you need them? No one can see. There's a park there. There's trees there. That sort of thing.
Pretty much, yes.
Okay. Is there any other?
In our opinion, we don't think they're necessary, obviously, because they're facing the public reserve, and we thought maybe it had been a misunderstanding of the orientation of it. So we weren't sure if they were in fact intended to be required on the southern edge. We obviously think they're not required, given that it's overlooking a quite heavily vegetated reserve, as you can see in those images that I sent through.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other design issues you want to raise?
Yeah, I also wanted to raise the other question, or the other point there, about the minimum setbacks to all decks. We do have a point encroachment on the decks to the side boundary, the southern boundary. We've got 1.12 metres on one level and 1.05 metres on the other level. And while we understand that you are requesting a 1.2 metre setback, we're requesting that be reconsidered, as we believe that the current design gives better amenity for the owners. And it is a very, very minor encroachment into that the 1200 mil zone. Furthermore, in the draft condition, it refers to all decks. We are
sorry, before you go any further, what condition?
Still the same condition, condition 9.
Yep.
In reference to the setbacks, in the condition reads that a minimum setback of 1200 is required to all decks. Now we're suggesting that if anything should only be to the new decks, given that there is an existing deck in the southwest corner of the property that we're not touching. So at the very least, we would like to have the condition, if we cannot leave it as currently is, we would like the reference to all decks be removed and replaced with all new decks.
So you'd agree to a condition that says 1.2 for all new decks? Is that what you're asking?
We would prefer to not have that condition at all, as we believe that the point encroachment is so minor that it bears no impact on any neighbouring properties, doesn't impact privacy, views, overshadowing, or anything like that. So our preference would be to have the condition removed altogether. Failing that, at the very least, the condition should read to be only relating to any new decks, if we cannot have it removed altogether. And that's, yeah, I'm more here to answer questions, I guess, if there's anything else that the panel may wish to ask.
Oh, okay, and I hope I didn't cut you off
That's
about
3 minutes.
That's fine, yeah.
Thank
Thank you. Any questions from any panel members?
None for me, Chair.
Nick, no. And that's it. There's only us. There's Cameron. Okay, thanks very much. I think I hope I didn't cut you off about the privacy. We just understood what you'd said, and we understood what there's nothing more you wanted to say about the privacy screens.
No.
Yeah.
No, I think hopefully the diagrams and that were pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, and it's so you would really want ideally condition 9 removed altogether, second dot point, and then as you say, depending what we say, if it only relates to new decks. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
So that I think concludes the. Let's go back to my running sheet. I think no one else to speak. Is that correct, Council? No one's registered.
That's correct.
Since.
No.
So that's now the end of the public session, and we'll reconvene on the third Teams meeting for the private session. Thank you.